Welcome once again to this week's Rashi Nosh. I'm Pastor Matt.
And I'm Kara.
We are excited to have you back this week as we are in a Torah portion called Chayei. And in one respect, this is kind of a sad Torah portion in that Sarah dies. However, it's also a very joyful Torah portion because we meet Rebecca, and a commercial for Rabbi Shapira's book called the Rivka Remnant. Rivka is how we say Rebecca in Hebrew. So it's the Rebecca Remnant, and how someone can take the Rivka journey, the Rebecca journey of knowing the depth of their faith, to understand the Jewish background of it. That it's like taking a journey that Rebecca has to take with Eliezer to go and marry into the family of Abraham. So, little commercial for Rabbi Shapira's book. It's really good, especially if you're a Christian. You ought to check it out. So, we are talking this week about something that Rebecca does as far as an act of service. In our family, you know, my dad's a pastor, your dad's a pastor. We have been for many, many years in both of our families, people who are sort of around the church and doing things around the church, behind the scenes, when people aren't there, before people get there, after they've left. Especially when you pastor a small congregation, your family, that ministry family, the pastor's family, does a lot of that type of work. And that was one of the things that I was really impressed when we first met, because we had this shared value of leaving a place better than how you found it. And so I just want to read us a couple of verses and get your take on it, because, again, for you, not just as someone who's my wife, but, you know, you have been a teacher for a few years. You have managed a couple of food places, of restaurants, where stuff has to get done. And if you see it and it needs to get done, then you need to do it and take that initiative. So let me read a couple of verses and I'll get your thoughts on this. So Eliezer is praying and he says, "See, I stand here for my master Abraham. I'm by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townsmen are coming out to draw water. Let it be that the maiden to whom I say, 'Please tip your jug so that I may drink,' and she who replies, 'Drink, and I will even water your camels,' her will you have chosen for your servant Isaac, and may I know through her that you have done a kindness with my master." And here's what Rashi says. Rashi says that in that she will perform acts of kindness, and through that be worthy to enter the household of Abraham. Because Abraham was a person that did things for others. When the divine visitors visited in last week's Torah portion, he washed their feet. This is something that's just part of his personality. And so when Rebecca comes down and she actually says, "I will draw water for you and even for your camels until they have finished drinking." There are 10 camels and they can drink gallons and gallons of water. So she kept watering them until they were done. So for you, being a part of a ministry family and being a woman, maybe having a different perspective than me, how do you feel about doing these types of acts of service and our responsibility as believers of leaving a place nice?
I mean, I agree. I think that that's important.
Like, what if I've noticed that if we are somewhere, and you tend to be more observant than I am, maybe it's because you're a woman, but you might see something out of place and you just take the responsibility of just picking it up, of just not waiting for someone else to do it. But if you see something, some trash on the ground or whatever, I notice this about you. You just tend to pick it up. And is that something that you think that should be a part of the life of us as believers, of just something needs to be done and I need to do it?
I mean, I feel like that's just should be, yes, common sense, I think. But I guess not everybody sees that or thinks that way. But I mean, if it's nobody's job, then nobody does it. But if it's everyone's job, then hopefully everyone does it, and it gets done. So I think it's a good habit to get into, whether it's in public or even, at churches, not church, but at anywhere you are.
Any congregation.
Yeah, that you assume that it's all got to get done. And if you aren't pitching in to help, then that means someone else is having to shoulder the whole burden. And it's just, just kindness, you know. It's just it's a fruit of the Spirit.
Well, let's take it a step farther from that. What I really respected about you when I first met you, your sister, your mom, your grandmother, the women in your family are not shy about doing work, like labor. It was not an easy thing for Rebecca to draw water for all these camels. And I know that that's because you're that way. Our daughters are like that. How do you think that plays out as far as being a woman to not shy away from doing something physical? We've joked many times in teachings that I've done about how you own a lot of tools. You do a lot of stuff around our house. You're not afraid to do like physical, like manual stuff. Do you think that more women can maybe be brave to do those kinds of things, like to say, I don't have to wait for some man to do it. I'm gonna water these camels, something like that.
I mean, I feel like she was probably used to that kind of task, so I'm not saying that people have to, necessarily, take on things that they wouldn't normally take on. But I mean, worst comes to worst, you try it and you can't do it, you just try again, or you just say, never mind, I can't do that. But I think it was just a good show of character for her that she was willing to do that, to take that extra step, not only give him water, but to water the camels. And I think that was probably a good sign for the servant too, because, you do, when you're finding a future mate, that mate is marrying into the family. And so if that family has a certain set of values, then you want, your child's spouse to also kind of fit, and to be able to jump right in and not feel awkward. So if Rebecca was already showing that kind of quality, I feel like that was a good sign that, like, oh, she's gonna fit into our ministry life, our ministry family here, that she's already used to being willing to pitch in and do things. And I think that was reassuring, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think lastly, I think it's very impressive to me the way that she makes decisions. Do you want to go with this man and marry this person that you've never met?
Never met.
And yes, I want to go with him. I thought about it, and I'm making the decision, and I'm going. And I think that there's something so refreshing about that. I think we've got to impress this on our kids, on this next generation of making decisions. I think sometimes it's easy to be passive and to sort of waffle between one opinion and another, not making an actual stand for something, not making a decision. I think Rebecca shows us that she's willing to take this matter upon herself and to make this decision to go. And of course, it is a tremendous blessing that she joins this family. Yeah. And what the sages say is that when it says that he brings her into his mother's tent, that he wanted to see if she had that same way about her, that same light, that same radiance about her, and she did. And I think we can all learn from Rebecca, us men as well. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing to you this week. Do something for someone that is manual. Do something service-wise for someone this week, and see what kind of blessing you feel from literally doing something. You might not water 10 camels, but you might help take out the trash for someone. Thank you for joining us on the Rashi Nosh this week. We'll see you next time. Shalom.